I had 1 foot out the door, my truck packed, my cooler loaded, and a weekend of pure solitude stretching ahead of me when I saw it. Parked dead center in my driveway, gleaming under the morning sun like some smug, entitled monument to arrogance, was Karen's SUV. Again. Not nudging the edge, not a little over the line, no, the massive, overpriced hunk of metal was sitting right in the middle, completely blocking my exit, as if my driveway was nothing more than an extension of her personal kingdom. I stood there for a second, jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached, my fingers tightening around my truck keys. My blood pressure spiked, but beneath the anger, something darker curled in my chest, something almost amused. She really did it. Again. Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, had once again ignored every warning, every confrontation, every ounce of basic decency, and just plopped her luxury SUV on my land like she owned the place. I had told her, God, I had told her so many times, Karen, my driveway is not your personal parking lot. Karen, this is private property. Karen, park here again, and you'll regret it. And every single time, she had just waved me off with that syrupy sweet, condescending smirk. Oh, come on, Hank, she'd coo. I'm not hurting anything. It's just a car. It was never just a car. It was a symbol of the relentless entitlement she had been throwing in my face for years. She thought she could do whatever she wanted. A movement caught my eye, and I turned to see my neighbor, Dale, walking past, shaking his head as he glanced at the blockade in my driveway. He let out a low whistle. Oh yeah, she left for the weekend. Wine tasting or something. Took the HOA ladies with her. They probably won't be back till late Sunday. And just like that, something in me snapped. I turned, walked back to my barn, and fired up my tractor. Fury and determination settled over me like a second skin as I steered my tractor out of the barn, the deep rumble of the engine vibrating through my chest. If Karen wanted to treat my driveway like her personal parking lot, then fine, I'd make damn sure she got to enjoy it for the entire weekend. I took my time, savoring every second of what I was about to do. The first step. The hay bales. I maneuvered the tractor behind her SUV and carefully lowered the forks, grabbing hold of the biggest, heaviest hay bales I had stacked in the barn. These weren't the light, manageable ones you'd see at a fall festival. No, these were solid, dense, farm-grade bales, each one weighing close to 1,000 pounds. With a satisfying thunk, I dropped the first directly behind her rear bumper. Then another. And another. By the time I was done, her SUV was completely boxed in from behind, pressed up against a solid wall of tightly packed hay. But that was only the beginning. Next, I put my tractor in low gear and eased it forward, inch by inch, until the nose of my machine was nearly kissing the SUV's front grille. No way she was getting out without physically moving a 1,000-pound hay bale or figuring out how to tow a farm tractor. Still, I wasn't done. I hopped down, strode over to my shed, and grabbed the heaviest industrial-grade chain I had left over from an old fencing project. The thing was thick enough to secure livestock gates, more than enough to keep one entitled HOA queen locked in place. I wrapped it around the only gate leading in or out of my property and snapped it shut with a padlock that could probably survive a nuclear blast. Just to add the final touch, I climbed up onto my fence and mounted an old security camera at just the right angle, pointing directly at her SUV. It wasn't even hooked up to anything, but Karen didn't need to know that. She'd take one look at it and assume every second of her tantrum would be caught on tape. I stepped back and admired my work. There was no way out. Not unless Karen suddenly sprouted wings and flew her car out of here. I dusted my hands off, threw my duffel bag into my truck, and climbed inside, already picturing her inevitable meltdown. By the time she realized what had happened, when she came back Sunday, all high and mighty, expecting to waltz into her driveway and leave as she pleased, I'd be long gone, beer in hand, fishing rod in the water, and not a single damn worry in the world. Whistling to myself, I shifted into drive and rolled off my property, leaving Karen's luxury SUV perfectly, helplessly trapped. The weekend passed in absolute peace. Out on the lake, the only sounds were the soft lapping of water against the dock, the occasional crackle of my campfire, and the gentle hum of nature. No Karen. No HOA nonsense. No entitled whining. It was heaven. Then Sunday rolled around, and with it, the storm I had been waiting for. The first sign of trouble came as I was packing up my gear. My phone, untouched for 2 blissful days, buzzed angrily on the truck's dashboard. A dozen missed calls from an unknown number. Then, a text. "You need to move your stupid tractor right now. This is illegal. I am calling the police. You will regret this." I smirked. Oh, it had begun. Another message popped up. "Who do you think you are? I have an important meeting tomorrow. You are a petty, rude, disgusting man. Remove your filthy junk from my way or I will SUE you." I laughed, tossing my phone onto the passenger seat. Karen was fuming, and I hadn't even responded yet. By the time I pulled into my property, the scene unfolding in my driveway was better than I could have imagined. Karen stood at the gate, her manicured hand clenched around her phone, pacing furiously as she screamed into it. Behind her, a few HOA members, her usual minions, hovered awkwardly, clearly unsure if they wanted to be seen with her. And standing off to the side, arms crossed, was a police officer who looked like he deeply regretted every career decision that led him to this moment. The moment I rolled up, Karen whirled toward me, her face flushed red with rage. "You," she screeched, practically vibrating with fury. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I stepped out, stretching like I had all the time in the world. "Good weekend, Karen." She stormed toward me, her finger jabbing at my chest. "You psychopath. You trapped my car. I had to sleep at a motel because of you. Do you know how much that cost me?" I pretended to think. Not my problem." Karen let out a strangled shriek, whipping around toward the cop. "Arrest him. This is false imprisonment. Kidnapping. Vehicular hostage-taking." The officer let out the deepest, most exhausted sigh I had ever heard. "Ma'am, as I've already explained, this is private property. He had every right to block his own driveway. You parked illegally. That's on you." Karen opened and closed her mouth like a fish, desperate for a rebuttal. But she wasn't done yet. That's when I noticed something missing. My tractor was gone. I blinked, looking around. I had parked it right there before leaving. The hay bales were still in place, the fake camera still watching over everything, but the tractor was nowhere in sight. And then Karen smirked. "Oh, don't worry, Hank," she cooed, arms crossed. "I already handled it." A cold, sinking feeling settled in my gut. "What the hell did you do?" She tossed her hair. "I had it towed." My hands curled into fists. "You what?" She smiled sweetly, absolutely reveling in my anger. "I called a towing company and reported it as abandoned equipment on HOA-controlled land." I stared at her, stunned. "My land isn't part of the HOA, Karen." She shrugged. "Well, the towing company doesn't know that. And now, if you want your precious little tractor back, you're gonna have to pay for it." My jaw clenched so tight it ached. She hadn't just parked in my driveway, she had escalated. She had crossed a line. And now, she was about to find out just how bad of an idea that was. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm even as my blood boiled beneath the surface. Karen stood there, arms crossed, waiting for me to explode. She wanted a reaction. She wanted to see me lose my temper, to have something she could use against me later. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I pulled out my phone, keeping my voice level. Which towing company did you use? Karen smirked. Wouldn't you like to know? I ignored her and turned to the officer. This is theft. My tractor was on my land. She had no right to remove it. The officer looked at me with tired eyes. He knew it was wrong, but Karen had played the system just right. Technically, if they were told it was abandoned, they likely won't release it until the impound fee is paid. Karen laughed. Oh, Hank. You're always so concerned about private property, but I guess that only applies when it's convenient for you. She made a mockingly sympathetic face. Guess you'll have to follow the rules, just like everyone else. I gritted my teeth and called the company. Sure enough, they confirmed my tractor had been impounded under a neighborhood vehicle removal initiative. And just like that, I knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't just Karen's doing. This was the HOA. She had been waiting for the right moment to flex her power, to make a statement, to remind me, and the entire neighborhood, that she was in control. The next day, I drove down to the impound lot, paid the outrageous fee to get my tractor back, and by the time I returned home, there was an envelope taped to my front gate. I ripped it open and read the letter inside. $500 HOA fine, obstruction of community access. I stared at the words, barely able to process what I was seeing. Karen had fined me for blocking my own driveway. And the final insult? The fine was the exact same amount she had to pay for her motel stay. This wasn't about rules. It was about power. It was about Karen getting the last word, about making sure I paid, literally, for what I had done. I crumpled the letter in my fist, shaking with barely restrained rage. This was war now. I stormed down to the HOA meeting that night, envelope still in hand, fury burning in my chest. The second I walked in, all eyes turned to me. Karen, sitting at the head of the table, didn't even try to hide her smugness. Oh, look who decided to join us, she said sweetly, resting her chin on her hand. Did you get our little notice? I slapped the letter down on the table so hard it made some of the board members flinch. You're fining me for blocking my own driveway? Karen tilted her head, feigning confusion. Hank, the HOA has strict rules about emergency vehicle access. You violated those rules and you deliberately obstructed a shared community space. I narrowed my eyes. My land isn't part of the HOA. Karen's smile didn't falter. Oh, Hank. Everything in this neighborhood is HOA property when we decide it is. I felt a ripple go through the room, some of the board members shifting uncomfortably, some neighbors exchanging uneasy glances. Even her own people knew she had gone too far. That's when I made my move. Without breaking eye contact, I pulled out my phone and held it up for the entire room to see. I've recorded everything, Karen. Every fine you've sent. Every time you've bent the rules for yourself while enforcing them on everyone else. And now? I turned my screen toward them. I just sent everything to a local journalist. Karen's smirk slipped. Murmurs spread through the room. One of the board members, a man who had always seemed a little too scared to challenge her, cleared his throat. Hank, what, exactly did you send them? I crossed my arms. Proof of financial abuse. Every HOA fine Karen has issued that doesn't apply to her. Every neighborhood fund she's used for her own property. Every shady expense she's ever filed under community maintenance. Karen shot up from her seat. You can't just. Oh, I can, I cut in, my voice like steel. And I did. Her face paled, her mind racing. She wasn't worried about me, she was worried about the city getting involved. And judging by the way some of the HOA board members were suddenly looking at her, she was losing control fast. Karen's empire collapsed faster than she could claw it back. By the next morning, the journalist had already published an exposé detailing every dirty trick she had pulled, the bogus fines, the shady financials, the abuse of HOA power. The article spread like wildfire, not just through the neighborhood, but across local news outlets and social media. People who had once been too afraid to speak up suddenly found their voices. Then came the real bombshell. Buried in the comments of the article, someone posted a formal complaint they had submitted to the city. They weren't just questioning Karen's leadership anymore, they were calling for a full investigation into the HOA's finances and legal standing. I didn't even have to lift a finger. By the afternoon, a second wave of chaos hit. More homeowners came forward, some with receipts, others with entire folders of documentation, exposing how Karen had been bending the rules for herself for years. HOA funds had been used for her personal landscaping. She had fined people for things she herself had been doing. She had approved expenses that weren't legally binding. The city took notice. And once that happened, it was over. Within a week, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Karen, red-faced, shaking, and desperately trying to defend herself, had no allies left. Not one person voted in her favor. She resigned that night. Some people said she was forced out. Others said she saw the writing on the wall. Either way, her reign was officially over. But the damage was already done. With the HOA now under investigation, homeowners started pushing for a full dissolution of the entire organization. People who had once cowered under Karen's rule now openly questioned if the HOA should even exist. For the first time in years, the neighborhood actually felt free. As for Karen, she disappeared. No Facebook rants. No petty fines. No smug HOA memos. The last I heard, she was trying to sell her house and move somewhere new. Probably looking for another neighborhood to terrorize. I had just finished mounting a brand new sign at the edge of my driveway when my phone buzzed. It was Dale. I snapped a picture of my handiwork and sent it to him. Private property. No HOA jurisdiction. No parking. No Karen. His response? A string of laughing emojis. I leaned back, sipping my coffee, taking in the peaceful, Karen-free silence of my farm. Maybe this was how it was always supposed to be. What do you think? Was this the ultimate karma, or should I have done more? And have you ever had to deal with an out-of-control HOA or a Karen on a power trip? Share your stories below. I bet some of you have even wilder ones than this.